Easter eggs and sailing, how do they go together? Well, if you grew up where I did, in a little group of islands at the bottom of the world, at the bottom of the South Pacific, in fact, even the bottom of the top island, you'll find there's a little haven called Partanui Inlet. It was actually the birthplace of many great sailors who represented New Zealand in their later careers, Paremata Boating Club. Now, the Parramatta Boating Club was very famous throughout New Zealand, and particularly for one event, which was the Easter Regatta. And that's how I spent my Easters. 4 days, two races a day. We were absolutely living at the club. So here we go back to the late 1960s, and this is basically what it looked like then. Partanui Inlet was a great place to learn to sail. You can see here the tide is in, so it actually looks quite sort of harmless, if you like, but to the unsuspecting sailor, those sandbars that you can see there just in the beneath the blue, they would catch many an unwary out-of-town sailor by surprise, and it would not be uncommon for the crash boat to rescue people off those sandbars if they couldn't get off again themselves, but it made for very exciting sailing. Generally, the trend was to have 2 rough days and 2 fairly calm days. Not that was arranged by anybody that I knew, but that was generally how the trend went. And a rough day in Wellington is, and this is the Wellington area, can be very challenging for the unwary. So basically, if you found you could sail there, you could sail just about anywhere. No modern gear in those days. Basically, we had big Mae West life jackets, and because we were scrawny little things when we were teenage or even young preteens, we would basically put on a couple of wool jumpers, our mother's old discarded tights, and would actually jump in the water beforehand on a rough day to make ourselves heavier. Now here you can see me practicing. I'm sort of getting the going about sort of without any sort of hesitation there, because obviously smooth actions allowed you to get ahead of the pack. One person I remember famously said that the person who wins is the person who makes the least amount of mistakes, which I think was very apt. So here I am in my P class. The P class was also known as the Tauranga class, and it was a classic sort of learning boat back in the day. Now I believe they've been overtaken by optimists for those young learner sailors. The P class was 7 foot long. It was basically made of plywood, so it was fairly well all airtight bulkheads, and they were fairly unsinkable and pretty safe. And we would have 110 of those in the club probably at the peak time. This is the beach on the north side of the bay. The bay is actually an inlet from the sea through a narrow channel. This is actually my father in the red and white sail sailing a Z class or Takapuna class. Another sort of typical New Zealand, very famous New Zealand boat. So two-man boat, single sail. They would put up a spinnaker, so you could have the two sails when running off the wind. So very popular class there too. So here I am in my P class again, P198 Sea Spook. And you can see behind there that the sandbar is more prominent. Here's my dad during the winter time doing his R class, basically stripped the paint right back and repainting for the new season. So it was a full-time commitment.